Thank you for joining us on Arirang News as we continue our special coverage of the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit in Pyeongyang. We're glad to have you with us. The leaders of South and North have nearly wrapped up day 2 of the summit. And here to discuss today's historic agreement and more are 2 experts on inter-Korean relations. Dr. Woo Jung-yap, Research Fellow at the Sejong Institute. Thank you for being here tonight, Dr. Woo.
My pleasure.
And our very own Kim Min-ji, also here with us in the studio. Thank you, Min-ji.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we'll talk about everything that's happened today and prospects for the future in just a bit. But first, we're going to go to our Blue House correspondent, Hwang Ho-jun, who's live at the Press Center in Seoul. Ho-jun, we hear that President Moon and Kim Jong-un will visit BAEKDUSAN mountain together tomorrow.
Devin, if I said before that there aren't that many things that would surprise us here at the DDP Press Center during the 3rd Inter-Korean Summit this year, well, President Moon's Blue House spokesperson Kim Il-kyung's abrupt announcement was one of many that proved me wrong. Take a listen.
President Moon Jae-in and Chairman Kim Jong-un will visit BAEKDUSAN mountain together tomorrow. Chairman Kim suggested a visit which President Moon accepted.
The announcement elicited probably the loudest exclamations from the reporters here at the Seoul Media Press Center. According to pool reports on the Q&A session the spokesperson had in Pyongyang soon after the announcement, the 2 leaders will head to the southern summit of BAEKDUSAN via a cable car, and if weather permits, they will also head down to Cheonji, the crater lake on top of the mountain. The First Ladies, the South Korean delegation, and the pool reporters are expected to accompany the 2 leaders on their impromptu visit to the peninsula's highest mountain. After this visit, President Moon and his entourage are expected to head to Samjiyon Airport, the closest airport from the mountain, and return home. Tomorrow's visit to BAEKDUSAN mountain will be a dream come true for President Moon. I'll remind you, the South Korean president told his North Korean counterpart in April during the 1st Inter-Korean Summit that he wishes to visit the mountain and that he hopes Kim would make this wish become a reality. He reiterated his dream of climbing the mountain as soon as he arrived in Pyongyang while still on the plane.
Well, we'll be looking forward to some pretty amazing footage from there, no doubt, when they go. Ho-jun, let's talk about the declaration that was signed by the 2 leaders earlier today. Senior Presidential Press Secretary Yoon Young-chan gave a recap of the agreement earlier this afternoon.
Correct. He underscored that the Pyongyang Declaration talks about 3 things: the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, improving inter-Korean relations, and finally, de-escalating military tensions. He stressed that Pyongyang expressed its willingness to destroy its Yongbyon nuclear site, calling it North Korea's practical determination for denuclearization that would end the era of war and usher a new era of peace and co-prosperity. This was probably aimed at the U.S. government, which has raised concerns about North Korea's determination to actually follow through the denuclearization process. The U.S. has called for Pyongyang to prove its commitment, such as providing a list of its nuclear facilities. North Korea, in return, demanded that an official declaration ending the Korean War is signed first. The sudden friction led to the cancellation of U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's planned visit to Pyongyang in August. Yoon said President Moon will brief his U.S. counterpart, President Trump, on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly next week on both the disclosed and confidential results. That is set to take place next Monday. And regarding North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's promise to visit Seoul by the end of this year, Yoon was wary about jumping to any conclusion such as an official declaration to end the Korean War then, but he said that just having a North Korean leader physically visiting the South Korean capital holds great significance for inter-Korean relations and the security landscape of East Asia. Now, just to give you some updates from the additional footage that came in, the 2 leaders and their wives attended a luncheon at the Ong류 restaurant, famous for its Pyongyang-style cold noodles. For dinner, President Moon ate at a local restaurant called the Taedong River Seafood Restaurant, where Pyongyang residents are known to commonly dine. And just less than an hour ago, we got the latest live feed of President Moon entering the May Day Stadium. He is expected to deliver a short speech afterwards, addressing the 150,000 North Koreans in attendance, and that speech is likely to be broadcasted live. Devin?
Yeah, that's at the mass games there. themed Brilliant Fatherland. We'll go straight to that speech when it starts coming out. Thanks, Ho-jun. You've been out there all day there for us. We appreciate it. Now, BAEKDUSAN, as Ho-jun mentioned, is of great cultural significance to Koreans on both sides of the DMZ, but it's not an easy place for outsiders to get to, especially on the North Korean side. Seo Bin tells us more about the mountain as a destination.
During the April summit in Panmunjom, President Moon mentioned that he really wanted to visit BAEKDUSAN mountain and see its crater lake, Lake Cheonji, from the Korean side and not the Chinese side. He repeated his wish when he arrived in North Korea earlier this week. With a height of 2,744 meters, BAEKDUSAN is the highest mountain on the Korean peninsula and in northeast China. It's on the border of North Korea's Hamgyongdo province and China's Jilin province. It's had several different names since ancient times. The modern Korean name BAEKDUSAN means Whitehead Mountain. It was first recorded over 1,300 years ago. Around that time, it was also called Taebaeksan, meaning Great White Mountain. The crater lake at the top of the mountain, known as Heaven Lake or Cheonji in Korean, is one of the highest crater lakes in the world. A lot of international visitors, including many South Koreans, go up the mountains from the Chinese side. It is also a very popular tourist destination for visitors to North Korea. In the Inter-Korean Summit Agreement in 2007, the South and North agreed to run tours to BAEKDUSAN and even establish a direct air route to the mountain from Seoul. But the plan was never carried out. Seo Bin, Arirang News.
Now let's take a closer look into the agreements signed in Pyongyang today. Our Park Hee-jun explains what progress was made on the denuclearization front.
South and North Korea have agreed to achieve a nuclear-free Korean peninsula.
조선 반도를 핵무기도 핵 위협도 없는 평화의 땅으로 만들기 위해 적극 노력해 나가기로 확약하였습니다.
And that agreement comes with some concrete measures.
북측은 동창리 엔진 시험장과 미사일 발사대를 유관국의 전문가들의 참여하에 영구적으로 폐쇄하기로 했습니다. 또한 미국의 상응 조치에 따라 영변 핵시설의 영구 폐기와 같은 추가적 조치도 취해 나가기로 했습니다.
It's the first time for the nuclear issue to even be discussed as an official agenda at the Inter-Korean Summit, let alone for detailed measures to come out of the talks. President Moon credited Kim for keeping his promises made with U.S. President Donald Trump at the first ever North Korea-U.S. summit in Singapore. The promises being no more nuclear or missile tests. The South Korean president also called for progress in North Korea-U.S. negotiations, particularly by continuing to exchange letters. The two Koreas will continue cooperating closely with the U.S. and the rest of the international community to achieve the common goal of denuclearization. And with that, he says the two Koreas are not far from reaching their final destination of building peace on the peninsula that's without nuclear weapons or nuclear threats. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
As Hee-jun said, the North agreed to shut down a key missile engine testing site, and there could be more closures ahead. As for the significance of this step, our Cha Sang-mi asked the experts.
The denuclearization talks are back on the track. At Wednesday's joint press conference, President Moon said the two sides have agreed on the next steps. President Moon called the North's promise to permanently close the Dongchangri engine testing and missile launch site a very meaningful outcome and said the permanent denuclearization of the Korean peninsula will be achieved before long. The Yongbyon complex is the North's most important nuclear facility, so getting rid of it would be a meaningful step indeed. Among those keeping close tabs on these developments is Professor Song Se-ryun, who says that progress on denuclearization could open the door to another summit between North Korea and the U.S. But he also said President Moon might have expected something more out of the Pyongyang declaration.
I think he suggested that not only the facility dismantling, but also the big piece on the inspection side. Because if you don't know how many weapons they have, we cannot talk about how to eliminate it or even reduce it. So on that point, if we're talking about the dismantling of facilities without even the concrete schedule to do so, probably is a letdown for a lot of people.
Other experts like writer Tim Shorrock say the U.S. might not see this as a positive development. They'll want something more concrete before another meeting.
Well, I think the biggest problem is that the United States wants North Korea to basically surrender its nuclear weapons first, and then move toward a peace regime and getting a peace treaty and that kind of thing. And I think that North Korea is not going to surrender its weapons without some kind of real security, not just a guarantee, but its future where it's not under where it feels under attack by the United States.
Shorrock said key steps by both North Korea and the U.S. are needed to improve their communications, perhaps by opening up embassies or liaison offices in Pyongyang and Washington. 차상미, Arirang News.
Now, the defense chiefs of the two Koreas also signed a comprehensive military agreement aimed at reducing tensions and building trust. That means scaling back military drills, removing some guard posts on the border, and lots more. Park Ji-won has the details.
South Korea's Minister of National Defense Song Yang-moo and his North Korean counterpart No Kwang-chol signed a comprehensive military agreement Wednesday with South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un present at the scene. The military agreement states various specific details to realize the goal of ceasing hostile acts against each other and building mutual trust. First, both sides agreed to cease military exercises along the military demarcation line from November 1st this year. Specifically, all live-fire artillery drills and field training exercises at the regiment level and above will be ceased within 5 kilometers of the MDL. Both sides also agreed to designate no-fly zones for all aircraft above the MDL area from November 1st. Also aiming to prevent any accidental military clashes on land, air, or sea, the two Koreas agreed on specific step-by-step procedures and aimed to solve all military issues through peaceful consultations and maintaining permanent communication channels. Secondly, South and North Korea agreed on specific measures to transform the DMZ area into a peace zone. The two sides agreed to remove 11 guard posts each, altogether 22 located within 1 kilometer of each other by the end of this year as a preliminary measure to eventually removing all guard posts within the DMZ. They also agreed to demilitarize the joint security area, and the South, the North, and the United Nations Command will remove all mines in the JSA in Panmunjom within 20 days starting October 1st. The two sides also said they will jointly recover war remains within the DMZ as a pilot program, with those operations taking place from April to October next year. Thirdly, South and North Korea agreed to turn the area around the Northern Lemon Line and the West Sea, a de facto maritime border, into a peace zone to avoid accidental clashes. The two sides will also establish a joint fishing zone in the area as a pilot program. Lastly, the two Koreas agreed to continue consultations on various military issues for mutual military confidence building. Wednesday's comprehensive agreement came after a series of military talks between generals and colonels of the two Koreas over the past months to realize the historic Panmunjom Declaration, where the two Koreas agreed to cease all hostile acts against each other and reduce military tensions. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Other key agreements outlined in the joint declaration relate to economic cooperation. Of course, some of them will first require relief from sanctions. Kim Hae-sung explains.
The two Koreas have agreed to boost economic exchanges on the basis of co-prosperity and take substantive measures to develop the economy. First, the two leaders agreed to hold a groundbreaking ceremony linking rail and roads along the east and west coast within this year and discuss the possibility of creating special economic and tourism zones along the coasts. Already, the two Koreas have conducted joint inspections on the railroads in July, as outlined in the Panmunjom Declaration last April. Second, there are plans to reopen the Kaesong Industrial Complex, a symbol of cross-border economic cooperation which opened in 2004 but has been shut down since 2016 amid heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula following North Korea's nuclear test.
환경이 조성되는 대로 개성공단과 금강산 관광 사업의 정상화도 이루어질 것입니다.
When conditions are ready, as economic ventures or investment in the North would require the lifting of UN sanctions on North Korea. In addition, the two Koreas have agreed to push for cooperation in environmental protection like forestry restoration and healthcare and medical services. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
In addition to military and economic issues, the Pyeongyang agreement will have the two Koreas doing more together in terms of culture and sports. They'll also work on holding more reunions for separated families like the ones we saw last month. Won Jung-hwan reports.
The summit agreement will lead to further humanitarian cooperation in the near future, highlighting the objective of solving the fundamental issue of separated families. The two leaders said that they will cooperate on the humanitarian front, allowing their people to hold video-based reunions and exchange video messages with their families separated by the Korean War some 60 years ago. Also, as the elderly survivors are approaching the twilight of their lives, the two have put their heads together to resolve lingering issues as soon as possible by opening a reunion center for separated families in the Mount Kumgang area and restoring the visiting facilities. The two Koreas have also decided to actively forge stronger inter-Korean exchanges in various fields in order to heighten the atmosphere of reconciliation and unity on the Korean peninsula. Following the latest performance by North Korean artists in February during the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in Seoul, they once again agreed to further promote cultural and artistic exchanges by holding another art performance by the Pyongyang Art Troupe in Seoul next month. The two have also agreed to hold events to commemorate the 11th anniversary of the October 4th Declaration and to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the March 1st independence movement together. On the sporting front, the two leaders agreed to cooperate in major sports events such as the upcoming 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and also announced that they will make a bid to the IOC to co-host the 2032 Summer Olympics. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
The Pyongyang summit has been covered by media from around the world, most of it centered around the North's weapons programs, it must be said, but they also noted the significance of the talks themselves in promoting peace. Hong Yu takes a closer look.
The world's media were all interested in what the leaders of the two Koreas had to say. Soon after the leaders announced the details of their agreement, U.S. President Donald Trump tweeted about their announcement. He said that Kim Jong-un has agreed to allow nuclear inspections subject to final negotiations and to permanently dismantle a test site and launch pad in the presence of international experts. In the meantime, there will be no rocket or nuclear testing. Hero remains to continue being returned home to the United States. Also, North and South Korea will file a joint bid to host the 2032 Olympics. Very exciting. British newspaper The Guardian reported that North Korea had agreed to shut down its missile test sites. It emphasized that Moon Jae-in said the two leaders have agreed to steps that will lead to a nuclear-free peninsula. Japanese newspaper Asahi Shimbun also focused its report on North Korea agreeing to invite foreign experts to verify its permanent scrapping of its missile sites. It also highlighted the importance of this summit, saying, more than in their previous encounters, when the mere fact of meeting and resuming a dialogue was seen as a major step forward, Moon is under pressure to leave Thursday with some concrete accomplishments. CNN reported that South and North Korea have committed to an era of no war, taking a step closer to peace by signing a joint military agreement that removes the threat of conflict on the peninsula. The joint military agreement was signed right after the Pyongyang Joint Agreement. Most foreign media highlighted the fact that North Korea has agreed to shut down its missile test sites since progress towards denuclearizing North Korea is what the rest of the world is most interested in. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
After the joint declaration was made around noon, the South Korean leader visited a number of places in Pyongyang, including a restaurant serving the city's famous cold noodles. Kan Hyung-woo reports.
During the April Inter-Korean Summit, President Moon Jae-in tried some Pyeongyang naengmyeon or cold noodles brought from the North famous Oglu restaurant. On Wednesday, the South Korean leader went straight to the source for a luncheon with Kim Jong-un. North Korea's First Lady Lee Seol-ju said Pyongyang cold noodles have gotten a lot more popular since the Panmunjom summit, telling reporters that foreign visitors have been asking for the signature dish. After the luncheon, President Moon went back to where he's been staying, the Baekhawan State Guest House. Greeted by North Korean high-ranking officials, President Moon planted a golden rain tree brought from the south in the front garden with Vice Chair of the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea, Choi Ryong-hae.
이 나무가 정말 무럭무럭 자라고 그다음에 또 꽃도 무성하게 피고 또 이상하게 또 결실도 맺고 그것이 남북관계 이 발전과 함께 하는 바랍니다.
President Moon then visited Mansudae Art Studio. He wrote in the guest book, in the hope that art can be the bridge that connects the two Koreas. He said that when it comes to inter-Korean exchanges, there should be interactions not only between the governments, but in culture, art, and sports. Kang-young-woo, Arirang News.
And the leaders of some of South Korea's political parties are in the north as well, and today they met with their North Korean counterparts. It was a meeting that was supposed to happen yesterday. But in their talks, the chairman of South Korea's ruling party proposed ways for the legislatures of both countries to work together. Kim Mo-kyun explains.
At a meeting with representatives from North Korea's legislative body on Wednesday, South Korea's ruling party chief proposed holding an inter-Korean parliamentary meeting within this year. Speaking to reporters ahead of a meeting, Lee Hae-chan, the chair of the ruling Democratic Party of Korea, spoke of cooperative proposals he plans to bring up during the talks.
We will ask the North's representatives for their opinion on holding an inter-Korean parliamentary meeting before this year ends. National Assembly Speaker Moon Hee-sang already sent a letter about the proposal.
He also spoke of plans to discuss ways to hold a joint celebratory event next year to mark the centennial anniversary of the March 1st independence movement. The meeting was attended by the chiefs of Seoul's fellow liberal parties Chung Dong-young of the Party for Democracy and Peace and Lee Jung-mi of the Justice Party, and three counterparts from the north side, including Kim Young-nam, the president of the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly. The talks kicked off at 10 a.m., and before the meeting moved to a closed-door setting, the ruling party chief expressed a strong will to improve ties between the two sides.
Now we're going to break here, and we see the stadium in Pyongyang, where the mass games were held this evening, the famous mass games, and Kim Jong-un is starting to speak. Let's listen.
Fellow Koreans, thank you very much for preparing such a great performance. Good evening. We are now gathered here by the citizens of Pyongyang City, and we are united as one, and we have a heart in unison in welcoming the South Korean President Moon Jae-in and the delegations from South Korea. And I am very much overwhelmed by this scenery. Today, President Moon Jae-in and I discussed in depth about how we should go forward into establishing a peace regime on the Korean Peninsula, and we have yielded another great achievement. The valuable progress that we have made today was possible thanks to the ceaseless efforts put forth by President Moon Jae-in. Thank you very much. Fellow citizens of Pyongyang City, let us give him another big round of applause to President Moon Jae-in.
오늘 문재인 대통령이
Today, President Moon Jae-in has come here, and he will deliver a very meaningful speech in front of you.
오늘의 이 순간 역시
The very moment that we share right now will be left in our history, and let us now invite President Moon Jae-in.
평양 시민 여러분,
Citizens of Pyeongyang City,
동포 형제 여러분,
compatriots and brothers living in the north,
이렇게 만나게 되어
it's so meaningful and overwhelming to meet you here in Pyeongyang.
남쪽 대통령으로서
As the president of South Korea, and as introduced by Chairman Kim Jong-un, I am now giving you a message, and I'm very much overwhelmed by this opportunity. We have now ushering in a new era together.
동포 여러분,
Fellow
김정은
Koreans,
위원장과 나는
together with Chairman Kim, we met at Panmunjom on April 27th, where we embraced each other. The two leaders of the two Koreas agreed that there will be no more war on the peninsula, and we declared in front of the 80 million Koreans and in front of the whole world that there will be no more on the Korean peninsula. Also, the destiny of our people will be determined by us, and this is the principle of self-reliance that we reaffirmed. The inter-Korean relations will see a groundbreaking improvement, and it will reconnect the line and the connection that we lost for a long time, and this was what we agreed upon very firmly. Also, in addition to that, during this autumn, we promised that I myself will come to Pyongyang. Citizens of Pyongyang, my fellow compatriots, together with Chairman Kim, I agreed today that we are going to completely eradicate military tensions and dangers of war from the Korean peninsula. Also, from Mount Baekdu to Mount Halla, the beautiful motherland of Korean peninsula will be turned into a peaceful place, and this will be what we will be handing down to our next generations. And before it's too late, we are going to fundamentally do away with the sorrows of the separated families. Together with myself, Chairman Kim has made resolute determinations, and your leader, Chairman Kim, I would like to ask for your enthusiastic applause to your leader, Chairman Kim.
평양 시민 여러분,
Citizens of
동포
Pyongyang,
여러분,
compatriots
이번 방문에서
overseas,
나는
during this
평양의
visit,
놀라운
I was
발전상을
overwhelmed
보았습니다.
by the advancements Pyongyang has made.
동력 동포들이 어떤 나라를
Together with
만들어
the
나가고자
citizens
하는지
and the people of North
가슴
Korea
뜨겁게
and Chairman Kim, I witnessed your passion towards the development of the country, and I could feel your need and your longing for peace on this peninsula, and the unwavering courage that you are going to advance and develop your country. Fellow Koreans, we are strong. We love peace. And also, we should live together.
우리는 5,000년을 함께 살고
We lived here for the past 5,000 years, and we were separated for the last 70 years.
완전히 청산하고
Today
다시 하나가 되기 위한
in Pyongyang,
평화의 큰 걸음을 내딛자고 제안합니다.
I propose that we set our feet forward to the new era of peace, doing away with hostilities and animosity.
김정은 위원장과 나는
Chairman Kim and I
8천만 개의 손을 굳게 잡고
will hold our hands firmly with the 80 million Koreans and make a new country. Please, let's go forward to our new Korean peninsula.
오늘 많은 평양 시민,
Today,
청년, 학생, 어린이들이
so many citizens of Pyongyang, the students, the youth, the performances that you prepared for myself and our delegations, and the wonderful performance that you have shown. I thank you very much for this. Thank you.
And we're witnessing history tonight. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea just addressed for the very first time the North Korean people directly, a very resolute speech full of themes of brotherhood and unity between the two Koreas and his era of peace, an era of peace between South and North Korea, he says, has begun. He and Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea agreed to remove the threat of war, addressing the North Korean people as compatriots and brothers, and themes of self-reliance.
So to add on to what you said, Devin, President Moon Jae-in said it's very meaningful and overwhelming that he has got to meet the Pyongyang citizens here in the North Korean capital, and as a South Korean president, that he's very happy to be here, and they're going to open a new era of peace. And he also recalled his previous meeting with North Korean leader at Panmunjom, where they embraced each other and agreed that there would be no more war on the Korean peninsula. And he said that now they are going to, he realized groundbreaking improvements in North Korea, and he said he saw the passion towards development from the North Korean people, and he also realized their need and longing for peace.
The development is a key word that's also been a priority of the North Korean leaders in recent years. We're here with Kim Min-ji of the Arirang News team, and also Dr. Woo Jung-yup of the Sejong Institute. Dr. Woo, let's bring you in here. What stood out to you in that speech as we saw the cameras panning across the stadium and the obvious enthusiasm from the crowd, and President Moon also sounding very resolute there?
Yeah, I think, as you just mentioned, that I think it's the first time in our history that our president addressed the North Korean citizen directly, even though the content itself is more about the nation kinship and the brotherhood of Koreans, both in North and South Korea. And I think that it also shows the confidence that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has, because previously, North Korean leader has been shut encounters from like Korean people, Korean government officials or Korean political figures to meet their people directly. And now Kim Jong-un agrees to have our president on the stage to directly address their own citizens. And I think that shows the kind of trust that Chairman Kim has on our president. So I think it's very surprising and also very amazing moment that our president directly addressed the North Korean citizens.
Amazing for us here in the studio, amazing for the people there as well, for sure. Well, we can't let this go by without mentioning what we've seen in the past 2 days now. With this, we could say, is almost the climax until now. We'll see what happens tomorrow when they go to BAEKDUSAN. But overall, how do you rate the past 2 days of the summit?
I would rather consider the summit as a part of the process, not the end point of the relations between the Koreans. So there are some things that still are unsatisfactory to many observers and the international community when it comes to the denuclearization process. However, we really didn't expect that all the problems with regard to the North Korea's nuclear weapons can be resolved at this summit. So as we consider this summit as a part of the process, we hope that many things can be moving gradually toward a much better outcome in the near future. So I think that, as President Moon mentioned before he left for Pyongyang, he said that this summit will be meaningful if it can lead to the North and U.S. summit again in the near future. I think that the 2 days outcome, the deliverables, was enough for President Trump to consider to meet Chairman Kim again. So I think that our president's goal of having this summit is almost achieved.
Okay, so this will be seen as progress to some degree by President Trump. Well, Minji, speaking of the things that were achieved in the past 2 days so far, we've got on the defense front, on the denuclearization front, rather, which is where a lot of the attention has been. They're shutting down a key facility at Dongchangni, which is used for testing weapons. Let's tell us about some of the significant achievements today.
Well, here they said that the two Koreas share the sentiment that there should be rapid action to build peace on the peninsula, and that's one without nuclear weapons or nuclear threats. So one of the points mentioned here was that North Korea plans to permanently scrap its Dongchangni missile site under the observation of experts. Now, we don't know what form that will come in as of yet. And it also proposed that it would be willing to permanently shut down the Yongbyon nuclear complex if the U.S. also makes corresponding measures. Now, the U.S. had been calling for North Korea to submit a list of the nuclear weapons or facilities it may have.
We didn't hear about that today.
Of course, it was not included. So some experts have said this may be like a counter-proposal that the North is making. But we will have to see whether the U.S. is satisfied with this agreement.
A counter-proposal, yeah, I suppose so. There's also agreements in the economy, modernizing railways, roads, all kinds of things. Many of those will be hindered by the sanctions that remain in place on North Korea. But in terms of those sanctions, those are not going to be lifted anytime soon, didn't you say?
So I think both sides acknowledge the existence of the sanctions, and there is a limit that North and South Korea can proceed with the economic project. That is why they put a clause like when conditions are met, they agree to reopen the Kaesong Industrial Complex and the Pyeongyang tourism. So I think that at the with the current sanctions, that things can be done right now might be things related to the forestry, because forestry issues can be considered as a humanitarian issue under the UN. So that is why UN sanctions does not block any cooperation with regard to the forestry. So I think we can still go on with that project, but as you just mentioned, that like railroad, road, and other economic project should be go through the UN Council to clear whether there is any violation of the UN sanctions or other sanctions onto North Korea.
Well, and both Koreas are free to, in the military terms, to shut down guard posts, or, as the agreement said, to move, to not hold drills a certain distance of the DMZ. They're free to do that. That doesn't require sanctions being lifted. On the theme tonight, when we're looking at this celebration there in Pyeongyang, it reminds me of the proposal to hold the Olympics together. That would be something.
Yes, in the agreement that North and South Korea jointly proposed for the 2032 Olympic Games, and
it's a long way away.
Yeah, again, this is a really great change in the mood, because last year, when South Korean government proposed to hold the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games in some North Korean cities, then there was a strong skepticism from the United States that because of the death of U.S. citizen Otto Warmbier, that many parents of the U.S. athletes harshly criticized the move by the South Korean government on that. But today, President Trump tweeted that he actually congratulated that North and South Korea jointly proposed the 2032 Olympic Games. So I think it shows that how the mood has changed onto the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah, he did seem rather excited about that. He said so, but he didn't remark so much on the content of the agreement today otherwise, although he did say that there would be no more missile and nuclear tests, but he didn't really say anything yet. We'll have to wait and see what response he has to it. Yeah, but what do you think?
Actually, his Twitter message today was a bit confusing. Yeah, he mentioned that North Korean leader agrees to shut down the missile engine site and the launch pad in the presence of international experts. But he also mentioned that Kim Jong-un has agreed to the nuclear inspection with the final negotiation. So again, today's agreement did not have any element that can be interpreted as at nuclear inspection for North Korean nuclear facilities. So maybe now it's a morning in the United States. Maybe a State Department has to clear what President Trump meant by the nuclear inspection. But I think that it seemed that President Trump welcomed the outcome of the summit, and I think it's a good signal for North Korea to move on with the second summit with the President Trump.
The idea of nuclear inspections, that seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah. So now, nuclear inspection requires the declaration of the list, and all other processes should be involved. When you can say the nuclear inspection will be ongoing. So I think President Trump might confuse with some words in the text, or he might hear the agreement on the nuclear inspection through some other channel. So we have to wait until that message is cleared by the U.S. government.
Well, if this evening was a climax in a way, Minji, tomorrow there'll be more events, but less focused on things like military maneuvers and things like that, and more on a journey to a romantic destination, romantic in the sense of history and meaning. That's BAEKDUSAN mountain.
That's right. So initially they said President Moon would be returning to Seoul in the morning, but there could be some sort of friendship event. And today it was announced that he will make a visit to Mount Baekdu, so BAEKDUSAN. And it's the tallest mountain in the whole of Korea, and it sits at the northern tip of the peninsula on North Korea's border with China. Now, apparently North Korea made the request and President Moon accepted. President Moon has hinted that he wanted to visit BAEKDUSAN from the southern side. He had received requests from friends to go to the mountain from the China route, but he had refused, saying that he wants to use the north side, and obviously he will be able to do that today, and hopefully weather conditions will be fair.
It's a place that is important to people in South and North Korea. Throughout history, there's all kinds of legends and stories, so we can all see the meaning there. And President Moon will fly back pretty much directly from BAEKDUSAN.
Yes, the nearest airport there is the Samjian Airport, and we believe that he will be flying from there instead of traveling back to the Sunan International Airport, which he used when he arrived in Pyongyang.
Have you been to BAEKDUSAN mountain, Minji?
No, I have not yet.
I went there, but it was the middle of winter, and it was minus 30 degrees, and we couldn't see Cheonji. Have you been, Professor?
No, but I heard that even during the summer days, the weather, if weather doesn't cooperate, you wouldn't be able to go up there and see the Cheonji Lake. So I hope the weather cooperates tomorrow, so two leaders can enjoy the scenery there.
I hope so too, and I think that's a good place to wrap it up this evening. Thanks, Dr. Wu, for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Minji.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for us this evening. Thank you to our guests for being here, and thank you for watching our special coverage of the historic 2018 Inter-Korean Summit. We'll be back, though, at midnight Korea time. News and footage is still coming in from the summit, so do join us then. Bye for now.